Hi, I'm Jeremy from International Sportsman. Today we're going to look at the ATN X-Sight 4K Pro. You've probably seen these at local sporting goods stores or Cabela's and you've wondered what the heck are these? I mean, I know I've seen them for several years and I've thought, man, how good are those and how do they actually work? Well, today we're going to take a look at it. I've had a chance to use it for quite a while. I'm going to tell you the pros, the cons, and what I think about it. So let's dive in and take a look. So first off, this is not your traditional optical sight. You are looking at a screen within the scope itself. So you're not looking through lenses, they're doing magnification, all this funky stuff. No, this is basically a camera and you're looking at the screen. That's the first thing you have to realize. So because of that, it's going to look different than a traditional scope, and that takes a little bit of getting used to, or at least it took a little bit of getting used to for me. So the main difference is the clarity. So looking through this scope and looking immediately through a regular scope, I could tell that it wasn't the same clarity that I was used to with my traditional scopes. Now again, it's because you're looking at a screen and the resolution of a screen is never going to be as good as with your eye. So because you're looking at a screen, you have to keep that in mind when you look at this scope and when you consider everything else that I'm going to talk about. Now, it does have a few advantages over regular scopes. Number one, and this is a big one, is you can see day and night with it. I had a chance to use it on several night hunts, and we'll get to that footage here in a little bit later and dissect that. But I can tell you that it does work. It works really well as a night optic. Now, is it as good as a traditional like military type night vision scope? No, it's not. But it does work, and for this price point, it's really hard to beat. You can pick these up around $700 for this particular model. This is the 5x20, and I would recommend that zoom ratio. We'll get to that in a little bit as well too. But for that price point, having night vision, it's pretty amazing. Now, the second big thing, aside from the ability to see at day and night, is that you can record your shots, you can record your hunts, and that is pretty cool. Now, I did notice that when you record, you've got a couple of different options. Now, I'm not gonna break down all of the specs of the ATN X-Sight because there's just too many to list, and I'd be reading off a sheet of paper, but you can see a couple of them right here. And I think some of the big takeaways are that you have 3 different recording modes and you have a ton of settings to adjust it as far as brightness, your reticle options. It has the ability to do range finding. It has Bluetooth. It can sync up with other units that are in the field. I mean, it does stuff that a regular scope can't. So whenever I was out testing this and using this, my buddy looked through it and he goes, man, this is pretty cool. Why would anybody use a traditional scope after looking through this? He goes, you can see early in the morning, you can see late at night if you're hunting. Why would you use a regular scope? Well, again, it goes back to clarity. This just isn't as clear as a regular scope. Now, I'll preface that by saying it's not bad. I would say that this is probably just 90% of what you would get through a regular scope. Now you can see here some footage of me looking through the scope, and honestly, this was one of the things that I was a little bit disappointed with because the footage that you see here is not the quality of what you see through the scope. What you see through the scope is way better than the footage here, and I can't hook a camera up or anything to the back of it to show you how good this scope really is. Out of the box, this thing was labeled up with a ton of stickers all over it. And that was actually really useful. Honestly, the packaging of the X-Sight was one of the things that I was most impressed with. And I did an article about this earlier whenever I first got the unit and started unboxing it. And there are instructions galore on the inside of the box, and then the scope itself has these stickers all over it which tell you exactly what to do. And actually, through a lot of my testing, I left the stickers on there while I was familiarizing myself. The way that the X-Sight works is very simple. You've got 5 buttons on the top. You've got the power button, you've got the record button, and then you've got these left and right and the OK buttons. When you go into the menu system, those buttons change the function. It lets you navigate through the menu system and adjust different settings and all that. The settings are very intuitive. It's very simple and easy to use. Again, when recording, I couldn't record and show you the menu system to show you how simple it is. But ATN X-Sight has very, detailed videos about how the menu system works and all that kind of jazz. So you can go check those out if you want to see exactly how the menu system works. But I will say that it's very simple. Now, at the front of the scope, you can adjust your focus. At the back, you can adjust focus. And then the side dial here actually adjusts your range. So the first thing you want to do is make sure that you adjust to where your reticle is clear and crisp, and then you can adjust your actual distance. It's very easy to focus and get the hang of, and while you do have to focus it for different distances, if you go more than, I'd say probably about 50 yards, it's very quick and intuitive just to reach up there and change that knob. It's not an issue. Now, in the box, it comes with a couple of things. Instruction booklets, cleaning cloth, a bag that holds the unit, of course the unit itself, several different mounts for mounting on different firearms, the IR light plus the mount, a sunshade, and then a rubber piece that goes on the back. Now, I've let a couple of guys shoot it, and some of them didn't like the rubber piece on the back. I liked it because I like to get my eye up there and actually block out the other light, and it helped me see the scope a little bit better. And then at night, if you're using it at night, you can actually put it up to your eye and it blocks out the light that would be shining on your face so that animals can't see you. Included in the box also are rings and adapters for the IR illuminator that's also included. Now, honestly, this is my biggest complaint about the X-Sight. These rings on here are not great. They work, but I stripped them multiple times, tightening them down, changing from gun to gun, and that's one of the things that I'm going to replace very soon on this. I've read a couple of things online about people saying that the X-Sight doesn't hold zero on certain guns, and I'm really convinced after playing with it and testing it that it is actually the scope rings that are the issue. And I highly suggest that if you buy one of these, that you change those almost immediately. So having said that though, I did do an accuracy test to see if my point of impact shifted when using this on a 308 AR-10. Now we're still in an ammo crunch and it's hard to find 308 match ammo where I'm at. So I used some really cheap ammo, and I'm gonna show you that footage now. But what you'll see is that the zero was not impacted by the 308. It still held its zero. If you're having problems with this scope maintaining its zero, I bet you money that it's the scope rings. All right, so we've got the PSA 10 with our tool ammo here, 150 grain Russian ammo. The ATN X-Sight and the Griffin Recce 7. We've zeroed the gun, so let's do our 4-shot group. So we're gonna shoot at 4 different dots, 3 shots each. So let's see how it goes. One shot, so 3 shots right there. That's about 1.5 inches. Moving up here, inch and a half, roughly, maybe a little bit more, maybe an inch and 3/4. Coming over here, gonna say that's probably an inch and 3/4. This is where I mentioned that I was really heating up down here. 2 shots, you know, almost within an inch, and then 1 flyer over here that's, what is that, about 2.5 inches. These were my 0 shots here, so we're gonna ignore those. I'm gonna say that the heating up of the gun, the silencer, and everything else is what caused that. The scope holds 0, there's no issue there. Now, when we're using the night vision part of the scope, there's a couple of things to keep in mind. You can use the IR illuminator that comes with or not. So I'm gonna show you some footage of with the IR illuminator and without it and show you the difference that it makes. Now, one thing to note is if you look at this IR illuminator really close, you will see that it does have a red light in the middle of it. Now, this is because of the wavelength of the IR illuminator. And I would suggest that if you're going to use this for a lot of night shooting, that you invest in a better IR illuminator. There's tons of them out there. They cost anywhere from $50 to $400, but invest in a better illuminator and your scope will perform way better. Having said that though, you can see that it performed really well at night anyway. And again, I think if you're shooting at 100 yards, 150 yards maybe, this is gonna be just fine for any night hunting or night shooting that you wanna do. Overall, I was really impressed with this scope. Would I buy it? Yes, I absolutely would. And one of the reasons why is because, as I mentioned earlier, it has a lot of benefits over a traditional scope. One of those benefits is new shooters. So because it has Bluetooth built into it, you can stream it to like an iPad or your phone. And when new shooters are shooting, you can actually look and see where they're aiming and help them right there as they're shooting. You can see their shots. You can see if they're jerking the gun before they fire. And I think it's a really good teaching aid. Okay, one of the coolest features about the X-Sight is how you zero it. What you do is you aim at the target, you shoot 1 shot, okay? And then you hold the gun really steady, you go into 0 mode, and you just move the reticle to where that shot was, okay? And if you held the gun steady enough, then you're able to 0 in 1 shot. Now, it has 2 reticles on the screen, so you can hold 1 reticle on the crosshair where it's supposed to be, where you were aiming at, and then move the other reticle to your impact. So if you're wobbling a little bit, you can fine tune and adjust it. So assuming that your first shot was an accurate shot, you have a 1-shot 0. I found this to be pretty true. It took me 2 shots in most cases because that first shot, maybe I was half an inch this way or that way, and I couldn't 0 it exactly. But it does work really well, and it does save you a lot of ammo over, a traditional scope. So that's another plus for the X-Sight. In a lot of my testing for the ATN X-Sight, I was using the Bear Creek Arsenal 17 HMR upper. You can watch that video here and you can see more footage of me shooting through the X-Sight. The 1-shot 0 saved me on ammo, but it also let me see how steady I was while shooting and test how that gun performed in the field. Overall, would I recommend the X-Sight? Yes, I would. But know that it's not like your traditional scope, as I've mentioned several times before. It's going to be different, and it's a little bit of a learning curve, and it takes a little bit of time to get used to it. Now, after you're used to it, the menu system is super quick. Adjusting the focus and everything is second nature, just like on your regular scope. It does look different because you're looking at a screen, but that's not a bad thing. because you have a lot of features that you just can't get with your traditional scope. Bluetooth streaming, being able to shoot at night, being able to record your shots, being able to record your hunts, all that stuff. Now, I really think that digital scopes are going to be the future. Now, I think that they will get better with time, and ATN, I'm sure, is already working on the next variant of this, but this one has been out for quite a while and it performs really well. I would say that for the price point, it performs just as good as a regular optical scope. Now again, the clarity isn't quite what it is with your traditional scope, but you get a ton of features, and having a 20x zoom is pretty impressive. Take a look at it. If you have a chance to look at it through the store, that's great. You'll see what I'm talking about as far as the video quality versus what you actually see. It is very impressive. If you want to learn more about this, make sure and check out our article on internationalsportsman.com. Don't forget to give this video a like. We'd appreciate that. Follow us on Facebook, and we'll see you next time.